Ding dong, Matt Canada is gone. Or is he? The football season is nearing its end, and it's time to start looking forward to what the offseason has to bring to you. Today, I'm focusing on the Pittsburgh Steelers because that is my team and that's who I am rooting for. I want them to win every offseason, but more importantly, I want them to take that offseason success and turn it into another Super Bowl championship. So here are 7 things that I think need to be done this offseason, or at least considered seriously. Starting with number 1, we need to cut Allen Robinson. Not going to be any big surprise there. He is our number 3 at best receiver, despite his experience with the Rams. By cutting Allen Robinson, the Steelers will save $10 million on the cap when they are currently, according to Over the Cap, $6 million over next year's cap. Hence, over the cap. Now, I have no problem with Allen Robinson. I think he has been a good veteran presence in a very young offensive side. However, his numbers and the future of the team do not justify an $11 million cap hit. So, $1 million dead, $10 million freed up. If he wants to come back on a lesser contract, by all means, please come back. Cut Chooks. That's not a sneeze. Chooks Okorafor is the starting right tackle. Well, at least he was, but he is still currently the highest paid offensive lineman on the team. And he is the 3rd tackle behind Dan Moore and Broderick Jones. He lost his spot due to a combination of poor play, and he was overheard making complaints about the coaching decisions. Legitimate or not, he is now on the bench. Cutting him will free up, looking at my numbers, about $8.75 off the cap. So those 2 moves get them from $6 million over to $18 under, with a grand total of 39 players out of the standard 53. So you have whatever draft picks you have to sign, any free agents to replace the 10 to 12 that are currently going to be free agents, practice squad guys, everything. You need a lot of cap money. Those 2 are the easiest 2. Decision number 3. What do we do with Najee Harris? Now, Najee Harris is still under contract. He will be going into his 4th year, which means we have to make a decision on his 5th year option. As it stands right now, again, according to Over the Cap, his 5th year option is going to be for just a hair over $6 million. So he's currently going to be making a little bit more than 4 this year, 6 next year. $10 million for a good running back is very easy to justify over 2 years. But is he the guy? Going into his 4th year, Najee Harris has been inconsistent at best. His best year was his rookie year, aka Ben's farewell tour, where he tallied 384 touches for 1,200 yards rushing, 460 yards. Where he tallied 384 touches for 1,200 yards rushing, 467 yards receiving, and 10 touchdowns total. With the retirement of Ben, the disaster that is Matt Canada, which we'll get to him later, and the emergence of undrafted free agent Jaylen Warren, Najee's touches have gone down. He is still the most physical of the Steelers running backs, but does that warrant the $6.71 guaranteed for his 5th year option? When both he and Jaylen Warren will be in their contract years with a new offensive coordinator and uncertainty, as of now, at both quarterback, head coach, and offensive coordinator. Now, this video is made because of the support of my friend Brandon. Hello, Brandon. He texted me the night that Najee got drafted. He's like, what do you think about Harris being drafted? I said, I don't know who he is. I looked him up. A physical running back who, as Mike Tomlin, we'll get to him, discussed, he left the comforts of home to go to battle in the SEC in Alabama. He could have easily stayed in a lesser conference, but he decided to go to the tailback factory that is Alabama. What does that mean? He sought the conflict. He wanted the competition. The Steelers responded by drafting him in the 1st round. The only running back drafted in the 1st round that year. There's a pattern there. Only one drafted in the 1st round. His career average is just right at 3.9 to 4 yards per carry. Okay, that's not necessarily $5 million to $7 million a year running back money. His explosiveness on plays, he does not have that home run ability of hitting a 75, 80-yard touchdown run. But he, if given the opportunity, he has the ability to wear down a defense. The problem is, the offensive lines that have been placed in front of him have been inconsistent, if not terrible, in opening up a hole. Followed by, when he's in, this year especially, it's going to be a run. Yes, they will throw him the ball occasionally. They might throw him a screen. But when Najee is in the game, it is a run. It is not going to be a pass to him. You put Jaylen Warren out there, and the defenses know he might get a dive, he might get a toss, he might get a pick your offensive name, but it's not necessarily going to be a handoff up the middle. That's not a negative against Najee. That's on the play calling. We'll get to that soon. Is Najee Harris worth it? I think they pick up the option and they say, okay, you have 2 more years. New offensive coordinator. Let's see what you can do. Jalen's going to stick around. He's still a very cheap backup who can easily, again, the salary cap dictates one cheap guy, one expensive guy. They've got the money. Might as well go for it. Item number 4, Mason Cole. We brought up the offensive line earlier, and he is the center of the offensive line. Yes, pun intended. The Steelers have a history of dominant center play. From Mike Webster, Dermontti Dawson, Marquise Pouncey. 2 of those are in the Hall of Fame. Pouncey is a multiple-time All-Pro. When Cole was signed, I was thrilled. A proven veteran who is supposed to bring more toughness to the young offensive line. And he's been okay to bad. Currently rated by Pro Football Focus at a 57.5. Now, I don't have a subscription to that, so I can't tell you where he is, but he's middle to bottom of the pack at best. And according to the never wrong ever Madden football ratings, Mason Cole is rated as a 69, nice, which puts him as the 34th best center in the game. Which means, according to Madden football, he is not a starting center. According to our offensive depth chart and the salary cap hit, he is our starting center. He currently has a $6.27 million cap hit. If we cut him, we free up 4.7 and we eat 1.5. 3-1, roughly, dead money to free up the cap. That's not a bad trade-off. But, and this is the biggest thing that I do, who do we replace him with? You cut him, you free up the money in the middle, but then what? Now, who do you replace him with? Do you go with the draft, or do you go with the free agent? Now, the draft, according to the various draft sites that I've been looking at, there is not a clear-cut, first-round deadlock, he will be a Hall of Fame center. Most of the time, there's not going to be that anyways. Now, there are a handful of free agent options, ranging from the unlikely to the possible. The unlikeliest is going to be Connor Williams, who is estimated at $13.5 million value per year. We ain't got that, and we can't pay that for a center. Equally as unlikely, but cheaper, but not going to happen, is Jason Kelce will be a free agent next year. He'll be 39, which, same age as me. However, I am not a starting caliber center. The draft class is not top-heavy on interior lines, as one might hope, but it remains a possibility. You bring him back as an immediate starter and hope that he can train the new guy. Apparently, he's been the one stepping up in interviews saying, hey, this is what we need to do. He's answering questions. He's trying to be a leader off the field, a lot of possibly to make up for his lack of production on the field. Number 5, Mitchell Trubisky. When Pittsburgh signed Mitchell Trubisky to a 2-year, $14.285 million contract at the beginning of the 2022 offseason to be the replacement for Ben Roethlisberger retiring, I was optimistic. He is a Pro Bowler from Chicago. His offensive coordinator and his head coach there did not utilize his abilities, or he didn't utilize them. I don't know which. But they had done little to nothing to optimize his potential. He was better on a boot, better on the move, but they try to make him a drop-back passer. Don't do that. You don't make somebody what they're not. The Ravens trying to make Lamar Jackson 5-step drop and pass. Never going to happen. He was supposed to compete with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, but the contract he got made him the starter, and then the unfortunate death of Dwayne Haskins made that not going to happen. Then they drafted Kenny Pickett, and he became the bridge quarterback to the future that was Kenny. He lasted 3.5 games. After getting pulled for Kenny in Week 4, he became a mentor and a backup. In his time replacing Kenny due to injuries, he has played freer, but still mistake-prone. This year replacing Kenny, Mitchell has thrown 5 interceptions to 4 touchdowns, including one where I messaged my friend immediately after. Pull Mitch. See what Mason can do. He can't do worse. Well, this week we find out whether or not Mason can or can't do worse. Hey, this is me from the future. Just want to say that Mason balled the fuck out. After the interception, where he overthrew George Pickens, I had been live talking to my friend, Brandon, the entirety of this game. This is an exact quote of what I sent. picked up a 4th and 10 with a pretty throw to Deontay Johnson. Then he sailed the first down throw over George Pickens off of his back foot. Who'd have thunk? Interception. That was my analysis. My amateur, peaked in high school as a marginal varsity lineman analysis. Mitch throws off his back foot, out of rhythm, too frequently, causing his passes to sail. That is the truth. Watching the games like I have, in anger, when Mitch steps into his throws, when he, in rhythm, he's fine. The problem is, anytime he's not in that rhythm, he throws off his back foot and the pass sails. Now, what does all this mean? It means Pittsburgh Steelers have a major decision to make. Do we cut him or do we keep him? Hindered by the decision to re-sign him to a 2-year extension, meaning he is signed until the end of the 2025 season. His cap number of $7.55 and $8.3 million as a backup is a little on the high end, but not terrible. Currently, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor have 2-year deals for $10 or $11 million, so $5.5 each year. Mitch at 2 years, $15. That's a little bit higher, but we are currently fortunate enough that Kenny is on his rookie deal. But getting pulled for the rookie after 3.5 games. And then this year, Kenny gets hurt, and they get pulled for Mason Rudolph, who hadn't thrown a pass since, I think it was December of 21. Is he worth $7.55 million? The problem with this decision compared to either the Allen Robinson or the Mason Cole is you eat a lot more dead cap money. If we cut him as a pre-June 1st, you free up 2.9 and you eat 4.6 in dead money. Just like I said earlier with Mason, who do we replace him with? Mason will be a free agent, and after signing his 1-year deal at the end of free agency, because there's no one else interested in his services, he came back. Obviously, top option, in-house. Other free agent options. Again, Mason Rudolph, Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, Joshua Dobbs. All 4 of these are free agents. None of them are going to necessarily expect to be a starter. And all of them have experience coming in and leading teams to some sort of success. Late round quarterbacks are also an option. I don't have the full draft in front of me because I've not had that kind of time. Now, as far as what draft picks they have available, they currently have 7. They have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, an extra fourth. They have no 5th, but then they have the 6th and the 7th. Now remember, a late round quarterback is always an option, but you never know whether you're getting a T. Martin or Tom Brady. Section 6. Offensive coordinator. Ding dong, Matt Canada is gone. Or is he? After firing a head coach or coordinator for the first time since Franklin Delano Roosevelt was in office, the Steelers had their first 400-yard game since week 2 of 2020, and then quickly returned to the ineptitude that was Matt Canada's offense. To call his history as offensive coordinator the worst in team history is not mere hyperbole. It's facts. The offensive points per game went from 21st to 26th to 28th. Yards per game went from 23rd to 23rd to 27th. And that 21st was Ben's final year, where whether or not he was calling plays, Ben on the field, or whether it was Canada somehow pulling something out of his ass, they scored more points when Ben was on the field. And with a total point differential of minus 150 over a 3-year span, is literally the worst in Steelers history since the merger. Since Chuck Noll took over in 1969, the worst 3-year point differential in history is currently happening. So what's the plan for next year? I don't know. You don't know. If you think you know, you don't know, and you're just trying to make up a story to say that you do know. Now, there's a lot of skill position talent here between Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. Hopefully a 3rd-year emergence under a legitimate offensive coordinator. The defense is the most expensive and also the oldest in the league. So hopefully that means that the defense will stay good for 1 more year and we can compete for another deep playoff run, if not a Super Bowl. The O-line has a combination of youth between Dan Moore and Broderick Jones and experience with Daniels and Zia Malu. So there's hope. Plus whatever happens with center. Maybe it's Mason, maybe it's not. But what is the reality of Kenny Pickett? He'll be entering year 3, 2nd year as the established starter, but his numbers aren't great. They don't fly off the stat sheet at you. In 25 games, either coming in for relief or as a starter, he has a 62.8% completion rate, 4,474 yards, and a 13-13 touchdown to interception ratio, totaling at a 78.8 rating. His playing style, or was it the play calling, has led to him missing time due to injury. Now, how much damage has been done because of the ineptitude that was Matt Canada? The future will tell. As of now, he is the second best quarterback from his draft class, because somehow Brock Purdy entered a Kyle Shanahan magic chamber and became an MVP candidate. But he also remains the fourth best quarterback in the AFC North. Now, that's not a negative thing, considering you have Joe Burrow, who, when healthy, is an MVP candidate. Lamar Jackson has won an MVP, and the rapist in Cleveland, who, on the field, is equal or better than Kenny Pickett. But Kenny is going into his third year. What offensive coordinator can get him to his peak potential? Whatever offensive coordinator comes in, you have 2 years of Kenny on his rookie deal before the fifth-year option happens. I don't have any idea what that number is going to be. But there's also other uncertainty for any offensive coordinator getting hired. A story on X, formerly Twitter, has suggested former Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman as a potential candidate for the offensive coordinator position in Pittsburgh. Please no. Please no. Now, the tight end group would love to have Greg Roman there. They'd actually get calls made for them where they could catch the ball. But, fun fact, as a dagger to the side of Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens have never had a Pro Bowl season from their wide receiver. Marquise Hollywood Brown went to the Cardinals for a first-round pick with 0 Pro Bowls. So when we have Deontay Johnson and George Pickens hoping to do something, I don't want someone who is involved in the 0 Pro Bowl option out of Baltimore. So who else could it be? In-house? Eddie Faulkner currently has the title of interim/co-offensive coordinator. His main duty is as the offensive coordinator, running backs coach. He has history of being an offensive coordinator. But since he took over after that first game, it went back to worse than Canada's offense. Injuries, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't scream, this is the guy, which is one of the biggest reasons why the Steelers don't make in-season changes. A false hope, such as that 400-yard game, can quickly make team players or fans or media say, we have to hire this guy, look what he did. Other option, Mike Sullivan. Currently the play caller and quarterbacks coach. He has previous experience as an offensive coordinator in various levels, and I believe he is with the Giants. But he has the same issues with his candidacy as Eddie Faulkner does. They haven't done much with him calling the plays. Now, who is an outside candidate? There's hundreds of college coaches who could move up, assistants on any other position group for any of the other 31 teams. There's a former head coach, Frank Reich, who, as an offensive coordinator, did well. As a head coach with one of the worst teams in the league, didn't do great. But there's one name that keeps popping up in my head, and not just mine, Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich is a Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a backup to a very vocal former Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who said, the Steelers, they don't have that guy who can step up and say, this is the Steelers' way. Hey, you know who can do that? Byron Leftwich. He can do 2 things. He can look at the ring on one finger he won playing for Pittsburgh. He can hold up another one that says, hey, I won this one as an offensive coordinator. He has 5 years as an offensive coordinator and 2 years additional as a quarterback's coach. He was the offensive coordinator when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Now, going back to Greg Roman, Tom Brady is a lot more comparable to Kenny Pickett than Kenny Pickett is to Lamar Jackson. I don't think anyone can really disagree with that. Now, is there any indication that Leftwich would want the job? Why, yes. Yes, there is. According to a report by CBS Sports, in October, when the Steelers were still 6-3, Leftwich reached out to the team to see if they would be interested in having him join the staff as an offensive assistant of some sort to help out the struggling offense. His offenses in Tampa were in the top 3 in scoring and first or second in passing yards. And yes, having Tom Brady helps out a lot. But if the coordinator gets blamed, he also gets credit. That makes him the most obvious choice. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. You don't know. I would love for it to happen. I've been talking to Brandon about this constantly. I would love for Byron Leftwich to be the offensive coordinator. Now, the offensive coordinator choice depends greatly on the next item on this list. Number 7. What is the future of Mike Tomlin? And is that future in Pittsburgh beyond 2024? Mike Tomlin has 1 year left on his contract. Does he get re-signed in the offseason? I don't know. Do I want him to? I don't know. First, let me say, Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's earned his place as the second longest tenured head coach behind Bill Belichick. You'll see a pattern here. Behind Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin is the best coach in the NFL, maybe Andy Reid. He's the second winningest coach since he was hired, Bill Belichick. His .629 winning percentage is better than Bill Cowher, Joe Gibbs, Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Walsh, Tom Landry, Bill Parcells, and Chuck Noll. Now, his 170 wins is 14th all-time, and if he somehow manages to rally to 3 straight wins to the end of the season, he'll be tied for 12th with Jeff Fisher, passing Bill Parcells, in 2 fewer seasons than Parcells and 4 fewer seasons than Jeff Fisher. But he's now living in the post-Ben era, where all of his numbers are put in the did he do it, or was it Ben? Why not both? With Ben, he is 137, 70, and 1. Without Ben, whether it be due to Ben's suspension, injury, or retirement, Mike Tomlin is 33, 30, and 1. To put it into perspective, Bill Belichick has a 301 and 163 record. He is 249 and 75 with Tom Brady, and he's 83 and 101 without. But back to the point. What is the future of Mike Tomlin? His contract is up after the 2024 season. He will be 52 going into the 2024 draft, which puts him at still the 10th oldest coach in the league. He will be entering year 18 and still remains the 10th oldest coach. But is he the man for the job? He still has a passion for it, at least it appears to be, for the job, for the grind, for the coaching, for everything. But has his voice gone stale? Would the Steelers want to move on? The Steelers have had 3 head coaches since 1969, the same number they had in 1941 by itself. Is he heading into a lame duck season, such as Bill Cowher had in 2007. He has the oldest and most expensive defense in the league, paired with the 3rd youngest and one of the cheapest offenses. The Steelers are very lopsided. Now, the other thing we get to is who replaces him. Is there any other coach out there you look at and say, he's going to be on the sideline for 15 years? What is the sales pitch for any offensive coordinator candidate they have? The way the Steelers and all teams do their coaching searches, it could be anybody on the sideline in 2025. I'll take Mike Tomlin for another year, with fresh blood in the OC headset. The Steelers are loyal to a fault. They've had 3 coaches since 1969. Again, you look at a team that's had 5 coaches in the last 5 years. Is that what we want? Is that what we as Steelers fans want? If Mike Tomlin leaves, who stays? Which of the assistant coaches sticks around? When he took over, he kept the majority of the offensive staff. He kept the defense intact and has evolved it into his defense. For better or worse, when TJ Watt is on the field, when that defense is intact, which it is not this year, they are a team that leads the league in interception, a team that leads the league for 5 years straight in sacks. It is a team that you know what you're going to get, and you're going to get hit hard. The offense, we're trying to replace a Hall of Fame quarterback. Ask the Miami Dolphins how hard that is. Ask the Denver Broncos how hard that is. Look at New England. They have Mac Jones to replace Tom Brady. Going from Favre to Rodgers took 3 years of Rodgers sitting on the bench behind Brett Favre. The New York Jets have been looking for their franchise quarterback since Namath retired. From the years after Terry Bradshaw retired to us drafting Ben, there are 20 years of Mike Tomczak, Neil O'Donnell, Cordell Stewart, Bubby Brister, and the Steelers stuck with Knoll and Cowher. For better or worse, I welcome Mike Tomlin back as a head coach in 2024. Will he retire? Will he mutually part ways? Will he just simply not be re-signed? What's it going to look like in 2025? No idea. What's it look like in 2023? It looks like a wall of text to my friend to say this team is going to cause me to go insane because I am so passionate about this team and they are maddeningly inconsistent. Does that fall on the head coach? Yes, but it also falls on the coordinator. We will see where this season goes. I can see it ending in the playoffs. I can see it ending before the playoffs. I'm hopeful, but I'm also grateful. I'm grateful that I've had the privilege of being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for 30 years. Could be worse. I could be a Raiders fan. God, that'd be terrible.